Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Thursday evening episode of You Can't Do That on Salesforce. And we're talking about rock, paper, scissors tonight. And I did some work off stream on this. I'm just going to try to get a couple windows laid out here. See if we get any chat tonight, so y'all can see what I'm talking about with whoever might show up. Where have we been? Where have we been with rock, paper, scissors? So I put a little challenge out for myself. First of all, to clean up the UI on this app a little bit. And then I went a step further and said, I wonder how far we can push the use of flow instead of code, but still have some code call some flow. I don't know if that makes any sense, but in doing so, I was thinking about Apex defined classes and how they could be interacted with in flow. And that led me down the path of thinking about what would you need if you wanted to be as flow-minded as possible while generating data structures that an application might need. And in our case, rock, paper, scissors. Right? So when we first started out with this app, I wrote a bunch of code. I don't know if I even have any of it left at this point. But, maybe it was, let's see. I think it was here. Yeah. So this was like the first iteration of rock, paper, scissors. And it's just one class that ran the whole arena function, got the data that we needed, and kicked it all out here. So this worked fine. Right? We could go back to this and everything would be hunky-dory. But I want to go a little further. And so instead of having this logic running in Apex code, I thought, I wonder if we could move the code into flow, move the logic into flow, then call that flow from a much more stripped down kind of API class, if you will. And what could we do with that? What kind of exercise would it be to turn code, which frankly this was kind of quick and dirty and easy. Not much about it really. It does do some logic for us, which we have to now turn into some logic inside of Flow, and which I thought I was actually almost done with, but then realized there was there's some other logic points that we have to write here. But instead of all this code here, we're sort of delegating all that to some flows. So, what does that look like? Turns into a fair number of steps. This is the harder one, right? We'll open up the easier one in a second. But in fact, let's see if I can just open up a new tab here. All right, so maybe an easy one and a not so easy one. You can compare. Hello, Mr. Microphone. So the first call that we make is to get moves because we need all the moves in the game eventually to be able to to run more moves. So instead of calling like we used to, which was, do we have that in here? Let's see. We might not have even had that in the original code. That's okay. Instead, we're just going to call get moves flow, which is here. So here's the easy path, right? Call get moves. Here's get moves. What are we passing in? Really nothing. We don't need anything passed in there. But this does return a records variable. So we get all the moves out of the game, all the fields. We do have to set that result or set a variable with those results. Otherwise, we won't get it back as an output parameter. So that's why this extra step here is edit assignment, get moves, set records. Records equals, and then if we look at our inventory, we can see that records is an output parameter. And that works pretty good. We can take a look at that. Let me open up one more tab here. And we can debug this and see what that looks like. Now, I should note that there's really nothing. This is just a list of moves. So because this is a collection, and it knows about its S-object type, it's going to return a list of moves back from the flow. And if we take a look at this, trying to bring our UI back to life. We're not quite there yet, but I hope by the end of the show we are jamming. So let's inspect this. And we'll put a breakpoint. Just where we get our moves here. Actually, I'll put it right below there. Let's rerun this. All right, and then we'll do my favorite. Here we go. So now we've got all the move data, and it looks like move data. It looks just like as if I was to do a query directly in the Apex. So yeah, that's neat. That was the easy one. Oops, and we're debugging, so I'm stuck somewhere. Here we go. All right, so that was an easy one. Now, not so easy one would be the logic that we have to get, the call is get games by user. So what we're trying to do here is get all of the games that the current person, the currently logged in user, has been a member of. And the related data, so these are all the games that the current user is a player in. We also need the opponent. We also need the player moves. Ooh, excuse me. And recalling that our player moves are a different object for privacy purposes. What we don't want to do is blow up that privacy in our flow and accidentally expose something. So I realized this a little bit late, that what this flow is currently doing is it is getting all the games for the current user. We've created a few Apex classes that are exposed to the flow, and we can expose them by using the Aura enabled call, just like we use for methods to expose it to LWC. So we have a few objects that move data back and forth for us. There's this get game request, which I think that's going to be, kind of generic for any time you want to get something related to games. We'll be able to pass a bunch of parameters here and be able to add to this as we go. There's a player data structure, which essentially is a rather than just passing the player record back and forth, I've been kind of, sort of playing with this, sort of data transfer object concept. So have these classes represent the underlying data, so we can manipulate it before it goes back to the Lighting Web component or wherever else it may need to go. Likewise, we've got the game data, so that's being populated as well, and game data references some player data for the current player and the opponent. So over here in Flowland, and we have to do a little bit of work here, I think, tonight, because we are bringing this UI back to life, and I promise it's going to look cool once we get all of our variables reconciled here in our Apex to Flow migration. So what are we doing here? We're passing in, look at our API call here. I like to use this API class as sort of like a wrapper for all the stuff in my app, and trying to make it a pretty lightweight shell. I feel like even some of these flow calls could be made a little bit more abstract, more generic, so that more easily testable. But here's get games by user. This is where the work is happening right now. So this accepts a get game request, which is this object, which gets created over in our JavaScript for the arena. So we can see we're creating a get game request object. All it takes is a user ID for right now. It'll probably take other parameters sometime in the future, but that's all we need for now. And we pass that in. So that hits here with get games. That's what we're calling. Get games by user. We're referencing a call to it. We import it and pass that in. Pass it in as the sole parameter into the flow. Now this is a Apex. This is an Apex defined class, and it let me pick get game requests, and it understands the data structure of that because it is Apex defined, because it is using these Aura enabled properties. As soon as it sees one of these, an Aura enabled property on an object, Flow will say, "That's cool. I can use that as an Apex defined class." We're taking it as input, so we're passing that in. We have a couple of output properties or variables that are the same. We have game data, which is an instance of this. So these 5 or 6 variables here. We also have player data. And that's useful not only to build the player data, but also because game data references 2 of those for the current player and the opponent. So here's our game data. We're going to use that to iterate over the games and ultimately return game data collection, which we can, because we have an Apex defined class, we can use it as a single object or as a collection, as a list. So that's what we want to get back from this call. And if I go again back to my API, I can see that I'm passing in get game requests to this flow, executing the flow, and then returning the game data collection, which is a list of game data. So, pretty cool. Setting up the data structures that you need to move in and out of the flow, and basically have the flow do the heavy lifting. Now, I will be the first to admit that this is, for complex logic, this is not the fastest way to do this. But I thought it would be a fun challenge to give it a shot and see if how much we could replicate our original code here, which is there's enough going on here. There's a lot of loops and having to go and get a couple having to go and get some data, having to iterate over it and build build some data structure, etc. So, in fact, now that I'm looking at this, I'm remembering some things that I needed to. I kind of forgot why I added certain things to the code here. For example, this outcome and this outcome label. We do need to bring that back. But let's see what's going on over here. We ultimately want to iterate over these get player move. And so actually I discovered something else in our logic. I think what we also need is for when a game gets created, we need to. So when a game gets created, we create 2 player records to represent each player playing the game. And then within each of those, we create a player move record. So this is private to the current user. Excuse me. This is where we let the player make their move without exposing it to their opponent. Now notice that this player, who's player 0, which is basically the first player in the game, they have a player move record. Our other player doesn't have one yet. So the current logic in the game does not create one of these until it's time for the player to play. I'm going to go ahead and create one now, just because we need to make that change, because over here, we need both of those records to exist in order to do the processing that we need to do. So I think there's some refactoring we can do here as well, and there might be another field worth having. I'm thinking a field on the player move that's just a lookup to the game. It's redundant because we can also get there through the player, but it would make querying a little bit easier, or filtering, I should say, filtering and ordering a little bit easier. So let's talk this through. We know that this flow is getting a get game request object, and that has a user ID coming in with it. That user ID is basically the user who's right here, currently, whoever's currently looking at the page. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to load the player records for that user. So this gets all of the player records. Now this is going to get big as time goes on, but we'll start, we have to start somewhere. So we'll start at this step. Now, again, hypothetically, we could, I guess we don't want to do that yet. We do want to get the players. So we have users, and then we have players. And players basically relate users to games. So we need to get the player records based on the user, because just having the user isn't very useful to us. One thing that's maybe a little bit of a limiter in Flow is the field references that you can do here. It can only be one level deep on the object in question, so you can't traverse through this field, which is kind of a bummer, because you could do a little bit more, some more complex querying if you could do that, and you can do that in SOQL in Apex. So that's one thing that we're not able, to replicate. Have to do a little bit more work because of that. But that's okay. Let's get all the player records related to this user. That's our first call here. And if I were to go back and forth to our original code, that's consistent with what we were doing here. Right? Get all the player records that are related to the user, and then we're going to parse out all of the game IDs. Because what we actually need is not just the player records, because the player record only represents one side of the game. We need to get the whole game, and with that, it's related players. Now, we can't do this. Right? This is another. We can't do nested queries like this inside of Flow. We could if we were querying inside of a loop, but we all know that's a big no-no, so we don't do that. So unfortunately, we have to, instead of going with querying game and its related players, we have to flip it, and we have to query the players with their associated game as a related field that you can traverse. That makes it a little bit messier to iterate through this. It means that we have to sort that result set. So you're always going to have 2 player records per game. So ideally our result set is, here's a game, player, opponent, another game, player, opponent. So every other record is the same player, but every other record is also a new game. So kind of have to loop with like even odd sort of logic, which we'll see in the flow here in a second. So that's, again, maybe bummer number 2. We can't do nested queries. It'd be super cool if we did. I was secretly hoping, I tried to like loop over a result set and see if it would somehow magically understand how to traverse into the child, like do a loop do a loop against players within the loop over games. No go. So we have to do this a different way. The other thing we can't do very easily is there's a nice new feature in Flow. This in command is very handy, right? This is a great step forward to being able to do queries that have a little bit more context rather than having to query everything and then filter out. We can pre-query that. What isn't super easy to do is what I think is a pretty standard function inside of Apex, which is this. You loop through a set of records that come back, and you pluck off one of the values or one of the fields to get unique values, right? So essentially these rows here are querying out players and then looping over the players and grabbing the game ID for each of those player records. Then we can use that unique set of game IDs to query again and as an in clause. This is essentially the same. This, ID equals game IDs. It's basically the same as this. So again, there isn't an easy call to go and get those unique IDs. So I made a invocable called get unique string values, which allows you to pass in a set of records. So this request object takes any list of S objects, and then you can also pass it the field that you would like to pull the value off of. So in order to build this unique game IDs, we call our get unique string values. What data type is the records that we're looping over? Those are player records from our previous call. And what field do we want to pull off of there to get unique values from? We want the game field. So this is essentially, this invocable is doing what these lines of code used to do. Now it does feel a little more complicated, but the invocable is written in a generic enough way that it can be reused, and we'll actually see it be reused 2 or 3 times in the same call or in the same flow. So this returns us those unique values. Now, what can we do with that? We can turn around and this is where I think we have an efficiency opportunity. We want to turn around and query out all players related to games that essentially the incoming user is related to. So, and we have to do that because we can't just query out the player records based on the user, because that only gets a current user. It doesn't get the opponent. So we're doing a second query to say, hey, get all players for all the games that the current user is related to, including the opponent. So current player and opponent. We get those back. And then what we really want to loop over, though, are the player moves. Those are where that's like the lowest level of the that's the lowest level of traversal that we're doing in this in our data structure, and it's where we need to get some information from. So when a game gets created, we have to create players and player move records for the whole way through. So we have to update our flow that creates games. Then we need to I think we also need to add a field on player move that is a lookup to the game, because we're going to need to sort the results by the game in order to loop effectively over the current player, then the opponent, then the current player, then the opponent of each game. So what we don't want to do is really expose that field for any purpose. There's no reason to expose that field for any other purpose than this, but it will be a shorthand. Again, we wouldn't need to make that if we were doing all of our work in code, because first of all, I would never need to do it in the first place because I have everything I could get, or have everything I need here. But because I can't traverse deeply through, for example, I won't be able to sort on the player's move. I can only sort on the game itself. Okay, I think this will make more sense when we take a look at what's going on here. So we're going to add a redundant game lookup to our player move object. Again, the point of this is to help us allow our flow to have an easier time filtering, or sorting, I should say. We don't even need to put that on the page. We won't put that on there either. Okay. Okay, so we have that field now. It's not populated, but we can go back into our player move records and we'll add it ourselves here. Except it's not. Right, it's not on the page layout. Okay, let's... we also need to set the permission set for that. Here we go. Okay. And then I will drop that out on the page layout just for our purposes. Okay. So we'll relate these to the game that they're associated with. Whoops, I did that one already. Okay, so this should make our querying a little bit easier. And we don't need that one. All right, so get player moves by player. We're querying out our player moves. And what we ultimately want to do is sort this. I'm gonna say done here, save this and refresh so that we can sort by, well, I guess that's a good question. How do we want to sort these things. Even if I look at the others, I think maybe, ID is the ID field is a serialized field, and if you sort it by, ascending or descending order, you'll get it in, you'll get the records back. But I can also just sort by, I was thinking we would just do created date. So let's go in and do that. We'll say, all right, this will get the player records by created date. We'll get the players by game, by, let's see. I think we also want that by, in descending order, by created date. We can do additional sorts if we need to also. Okay, let's save that and refresh here. All right, so now we want to get our player moves back. Let's sort that by game. In well, really, if we probably could do created date here as well, because we will have this set up to. They're going to get created automatically when the game gets created. So there's our player moves by player. So now unfortunately we've got some rework to do here. Same concepts, different references. So first we want to sort this. So I really don't want to sort this result. Well, yeah, let's sort that result set, and then let's see. We want to sort by. I want to sort by game in descending order. So I want to filter this result set because I'm already anticipating like a lot of records back, right? This could grow over time, and we don't really want 10,000 results coming back. Also, we're going to take a little bit of a hit on the flow loop limit and the 2,000 element limit situation. So we have to be mindful of that here as well. But I've got my, and actually I need to adjust what this is sorting on. We need to change this to get player moves. Right? So we want to sort this by game in descending order, and then we want to sort this by, do we want to sort this by player? We want the, let's see, how did we do that before? Oh, by is current user. Right. God, we might need you. See, the problem here is I can't, if I adjust this, right? So let's get player moves, sort by game, descending, and then I want to sort by, what I really want to sort by is player.is current user, but I don't have that. I can't get there from here. So I'm probably going to end up creating a formula field on player move that does the same thing that the field on player does. It's a little bit redundant. It makes up for a shortcoming of the ability to, to traverse here. So be it. The other thing we can do is decide how many records we want to return from this, so we don't return all gajillion of them. But I think that's also going to, so we can do some pagination through this. I have an idea on how to make that happen, but we need to do a little bit more work before we can get to that point. So I don't think we'll be able to do pagination today. We're going to have to create like an index field and do a couple other things. So we won't go there yet. But knowing that we need to, actually, let's create that new field as well. So I'm actually going to go look at my player object and then just steal it from there. Is current user. I use this a lot on a lot of different projects. It's just good to give context to, is the current user looking at the data the one who's also associated with the record. So we'll do this. It's current user. So we're going to pull that from the player user record. We could also do, I suppose we could do this too. We could just return player.is current user. So just kind of pass that field. I'm curious, so this compiled to a certain size, and now that's actually compiling to a slightly bigger size. So sometimes if your formulas reference other formulas, the compile size will grow over time. I'm not worried about this size, but if you get carried away with that, you might find those getting big. Okay, we're not going to pick any of those. We'll do it with our permission set. And I don't really need that on the page layout. And let's open our permission sets. Most of the fields that we've created here have no user, even an admin, has any business interacting with them. I'm going to grant access to them just in case we need to review them or look at them as an administrator. But they're really all built just for the system, system context. So okay, so now we've got his current user on our player move. So let's save this again. And refresh so we get our new fields in. And that was sorting here. Sort by game and then sort by is current user. I think, so this is either an ascending or descending order. I forget which way it's going to. This is, the whole point of this is to end up with, when we do get player moves, we're going to get, let's say my user has been in 10 games, right? I'm going to get 20 player move records back because each player, and there's 2 in every game, has a player move record. So it's going to be my record, my opponents, my record, my opponents, my record, my opponents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This works great as long as we're just playing 2-player games. If we decide to do 3 or 4-player games, I don't even know where to start with that. So let's just not call that a requirement for now. But the is current user is going to make sure that, again, we have to look at this. It's either going to be the first in each couplet of player moves per game. It's either going to be the first one or the last one. I don't really care if it's the first one or the last one. I just want that to be consistent. So when I loop over and say, hey, this is, the index of this loop is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, those are all the same person. And then 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, those are all the same person as well. But the couplets represent the games. Okay, so we've got that now. And now we're going to loop. We're not going to loop players by games. We're going to loop player moves. Okay. I think I just want to rename this and call this get player moves so it's not as long. Okay, that we're good there. So now we're going to loop player moves. We're looping that. So what's going to happen here? Let's talk this through a little bit. We're going to loop over our player moves. And when we're done, we're done, because we're not actually going to save or do anything here. We're going to set a variable, our outbound parameter, right, which is game data collection. So that's what we're ultimately filling. If I go all the way back to my Apex code over here, that's what I want to get back, is a list of game data. And that's what game data collection represents here. So that's already been instantiated and is ready to get filled with game data objects. All right, so we start looping. We're going to, so what we're looping over is player moves, right? What we want to create is a player data object. One player data object represents the current player. So this is, I hate the name of this variable, because it's not really current player as in am I the user looking at the UI. It's just the name that I use to iterate over the loop. I usually use the word current in those cases. This was probably a bad choice to use that, but that's okay. So we're going to create data structures, Apex defined data structures, that have these fields. So the player ID, the user ID, the status, the name, and the move. The move is what the whole purpose of starting at the player move level, because we need to return that that value. But we need to do it discreetly, because we don't want to return it depending on the status of the game will tell us whether or not we actually want to return the opponent's value. We can always return our own value. We don't need to hide our moves from ourselves, but we don't want to expose an opponent's move if they went first. So we've got to build some of that logic into whether or not we populate this move field or not. So from here, we're going to start with player data records. Now, it's going to be the current user or the opponent. Current user, the opponent. That's what we're looping over. So every other iteration is either the current user or their opponent in a game. That's why we're going to loop over this, and then we're going to have some logic that says, well, which one did you just do? Did you do an even index or an odd index? If it's even, it's the player. If it's odd, it's the opponent. So first things first, we're going to grab all of our values here. So this loop player move is going to be player dot username. Now I ran into some issues with traversing like this. Something forced me, I thought, to create a lookup field or a formula field for the username instead of being able to traverse to it. So I'm curious what's going to happen when we adjust each of these to go get related player information, if these are going to populate or not. So this could be a pickle. We're going to find out. Player ID. Like I said, I built all this and then realized this needed to make this change. So that's why we're stepping through and making these updates. Okay, so that corrects our player data. Now here's check count. So we have a counter, right? We have a counter variable that each time we step through a loop, we increment. So it helps us manage an index of the loop as we go through the loop. Loop players by games counter. We set that to 0. So anytime it's basically even, counter is even. Got a formula for that. What does that look like? Counter is even. We're checking to see if it's an even value. Is it 0 or is it, does it divide evenly to 0? There's probably an easier way to do that with a mod, I just realized. So maybe we'll clean that up a little bit. That's a very primitive way to do that, but that's okay. So even, odd, slot through. Now, if it's even, we're going to use each even to say, hey, you're on a new pair of player moves that represent a game. So let's create the game data while we're there. So I do need to also update each of these to say, hey, what is the game? So here's where our game, kind of references, they still work. That's our redundant reference, but it keeps all this together. Well, you also notice we're setting the current player on this side, right? On the even side. We're going to set the opponent on the odd side. I'll show you that in a second. But we're basically saying because current player is a player data object, and that's exposed through, where are you? Here, sorry, I had it up on my screen. That's exposed through Aura enabled. So Flow can speak this object in its references. So we created that player data. Oops. I entered an invalid value, apparently. Here we go. We were creating player data here each time we go through the loop. Might be the current user, might be their opponent. We get here, we set that player data, and now we've got our game established. So that when we go to the next iteration, now we know we're creating an opponent. We loop our counter, come back through, check our counter again. Is it even? Is it odd? We go down the odd chute. We create our opponent. Because we created our player data here every time, then we're just deciding, okay, now we're going to specify that this is the opponent. Even though the variable is always the same, it serves two different purposes. Then we add it to the collection. So let's save this. I'll activate this, and then we can see what the data looks like. Invalid reference to current player name from, Oh, yeah. Okay. This is player.user. So I also have I know I have a formula field on the player record that should work also. Yep. So again, these traversals, I was running into trouble with while using Apex defined variables. Now I may have just been late and I was going cross-eyed with what I was trying to do, but let's see what we get back here now. So this is activated. I have let's just check our breakpoints here. We want to take a look at the games that come back. So let's refresh this and see what our data looks like. Okay. So how did we do here? We got a game back. Current player, we got the name, the ID, the status, the user. Now I think my logic is flip-flopped because this suggests that the current player is U2, and that is not me. And it thinks I'm the opponent. So that's okay. We're going to go back, and we're going to flip. Oops, we're still debugging, so we're not going to do anything. We're going to go back to our flow, and we're going to flip this sort. Instead of this being ascending, let's make it descending. Let's save that again. Activate it. And refresh. We'll check our data again. Okay, so the game, the current player, me, I'm user. The outcome of this is we tied. I think that's a lie. because I don't think we've actually played yet. And we can check that game over here. No, it was a tie. Was it a tie? Does that make any sense? There, you two. They had no move here, so we have a little bit of. I think we got some broken logic somewhere else, but that's okay. We'll fix that separate. I'm gonna put the same move in here just so it does look like a tie. Because player one played rock. We'll have player two. Also play rock. Whoops. Yeah, we got a little bit of a glitch here, so I'm gonna fix this kind of manually. All right. Okay, so I think we originally built create game with the assumption that we would not create a player move record for the second player until it was needed. Now doing that because we need that for our logic in our flow, that's probably going to throw some things off on the creation of the game. So we'll have to go revisit that logic at some point. But for now, we are getting back the data that we need. What I'm not sending back yet is the move for the player. The players. It's going to be player or players. We have to figure that out. All right. I swear this UI is going to be cool. Look, it even says things like, it's going to get better. I swear. It's going to be super cool. It's got colors and everything. All right. One step at a time. So we've essentially replicated in our original code, right? In our kind of code to flow conversion here. Get the players, get the unique game IDs, get the games with the related players. This was a nice subquery that we can't do. Start building game data. See, and then we have, players without moves. So we have some logic that we wrote originally that handled the fact that, there's no player move record for the player that hasn't played yet. Now we actually need that to be able to work from it. So the in order, you need to be able to loop over the something. All right. So now I'm thinking about all this, and I want to go back and take a look at the logic behind this, because now I'm almost thinking, wait, did we actually need to do that? Because let's see. No, we do need to do that because we don't know the player move until is that right? Let's check our security here a second, because maybe we just made this more complicated than it needs to be. As a user, as an RPS user, if I look at a player record, I have read and view. I view all access on those records, and I can view the move when it's populated. If the move isn't populated, I can't do anything. with it. Which means if the move isn't populated, the player hasn't made a move yet. So now as I'm thinking through this a little bit more, I think some of the things we just did we may not need to do. Because until a player makes a move, that doesn't get exposed to the end user. So I think we can. Well, now hold on. But is that no? Because we are going to need the player move, because I will not be able to report back what. Yeah, we need the player move, because I won't be able to say what it was until after both moves have been made. So I have to evaluate the player move to be able to get the value back. Okay. I think we're on the right track, but it's obvious it has some other implications in the game. Okay. So let's keep going as we were here. So we still have to do some of this, the output. Excuse me. So we convert the status into an outcome value. The outcome really isn't it's just a capitalized version of the values. But you see, we do an extra step here. Pending and tie, those are easy. Completed is a little trickier, because if I'm basically doing logic, if I'm the current player and I won, write out the winner. If I'm the current player and I lost, write out that I'm the loser. And so we keep that separate from the status. So we will need to add a little bit of that into our. And then again, I guess the question is, do we need to worry about that in the code anymore, or can we allow the front end to make those decisions? We have to do a lot of labeling and such anyway when we render things out, so maybe it's not as big a deal. So maybe we won't try to build that into our into our structure here, because we have our current player, what was the outcome, the status. I don't have their move yet, but we'll get those. In fact, let's do that now, because we can get that here. Current player data, move equals loop player moves, move name. And actually, I don't want to do that here. Well, here's what we could do. We could let's preemptively populate it, right? But then I want to take it away if the game status is not completed. Or I should really say if it's a tie, right? I'm sorry, if it's pending, take it away, because we don't want to expose the opponent's move to our opponent, or to the current player. Oops, I'm doing an assignment, not a decision. So this player move game. Whoops. If it's pending, we're going to clear the so we don't want to show that to our opponent. Yeah, I guess we can make it empty string. We'll just might need to evaluate that differently on the in the app. Okay, let's see how we did. We should get all this back. This is a tie. This game is a tie that we're testing with. So let's see how this comes back. It's a tie, so I got move rock, and that's what we did. Okay. And we're starting to get some icons. Okay, yay-hoo, cool. Let's take a quick break. I'm going to go grab a drink, and we're going to get the outputs. We're going to figure out the outputs in our code, so this will start to look a little more rad. Be right back. And we're back. Let's get our outputs figured out, or outcomes. We need this logic in our component so we can get rad UI. Okay. So we're getting our data back down to our... So in conclusion, our flow is doing what our... This is formerly... Let's see. What's the trade-off? We got about, 80 lines of code. Versus about 30. No, 10, 20, 15. 15 flow elements. How many are in the loop? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 in the loop. So again, limiting our result set down to 50, that would be at worst about 500 elements getting looped over. And that's probably worst case. Like, it's more like, it's for each pair, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have a little bit more runway than that. We talked about the concessions that we have to make when we go to flow instead of code. Things around nested queries, having to write invocables to do things that we can do natively in Apex code, and the inability to traverse on the left-hand side of some functions, which, a sort, for example. We're also going to be challenged a little bit by pagination here. I do want to be able to paginate or, lazy load the games in the UI so they, we don't overload the system with thousands of records, because that would be silly to do. Sorry, what's going on with my phone here? Okay. Right. So there's our trade-offs. Now let's take a look at let's get back to the front end here. So we can walk away from today's show with the UI looking the way it needs to, and then hopefully get our create game working the way that it needs to also. Then I'm happy, right? Then we can start doing some fun stuff. Okay, so here's Arena. Arena's responsibility is to just go get that data and then hand it off. So there's not a whole lot going on here. And then there's an Arena game component, and that component's responsibility is to do the rendering, and then also has some commands for, like, I want to be able to do a rematch. I want to be able to do a couple other goofy ideas there. So this used to be content that we were looping over in the Arena originally. Felt like it was worth having it be its own component. So, okay. What we have is some of this already working. We got a date, we got some fields, we've got I've got really classy icons for rock, which is a circle, and paper, which is paper that you can't see right now, and scissors, which are scissors. So courtesy of the Salesforce Lightning design system, circle is rock, the copy or the new icon sheet of paper is paper, and then cut command is scissors. Had it all built in. There you go. Outcome is the value that drives a whole lot of stuff here. And we can see that it's not quite working yet, which is okay. I honestly think we just need to do a few. It might be as simple as just making some values uppercase. Yeah, like literally, that might be all that we've got to worry about. So if we were to let's just do a getter called outcome. Let's just have that return the game status to uppercase. And then wherever we're doing this, we'll just change it over. That might be all we need. We can take a lap through this in a second also. So I guess let's do that real quick. I've got some silly words that we can use for win and lose and tie and pending, just to add nonsensical spice to the game. A little bit of styling. Our outcome is basically our status capitalized right now, and that processes a bunch of things like what badge to display, what icons to display, we've got there's different variants of icons where we're success, warning, failure. We adjust color with all of that. In addition, the CSS for this is fairly robust, but is also kind of tight. We set a bunch of variables at the start. I went through the Lightning design system and picked colors that worked out of SLDS, but were also good representations of winning, losing, pending, and ties. So it's kind of green, red, yellow, gray sort of situation. And then through the there's just we use a lot of SLDS boxes in the layout, and coloring those, using those variables kind of lets us set up the structure here. We just have to dynamically render or dynamically create the container style, and that's what our where our status, and this actually should be outcome as well. Oops. There we go. All right, hopefully this is some big grand unveiling of what this all looks like here. Let's see. Oops. Oh, now I've gone and broken it. Broke the whole thing. Did I got any errors there? Uncaught in proxy. Well, that's interesting. Time to get the debugger out. Let's see, we haven't blown up yet. We got our games. We should just step through this, I guess, a little bit. I have a hunch that maybe it's down here in the move icon because we... well, no, are we returning that value? Yeah, we are now, and it should have a value in both cases. When a game is pending, it will not have value in both of those. So let's see. All right, let's move forward. So it thinks that this .game.status is undefined, and I think it's right. Yep, it's right. Because we're not returning that, I don't think. Okay. Oops, wrong. Refresh the wrong page. Okay, let's move on. Are we not setting status? Right, we're setting outcome. And I think what we really want here is status. I don't think we're going to pass back the outcome. I think we're just going to do the status. Yeah, I know. I didn't. Oh, such a pain. Huh? Do we not? Wait. Did I take it away? So that's game data. I did take it away. Okay. Well, let's take it. Let's give it back. I'll take that out. It is kind of interesting to, only have to work in the in the Apex classes to add properties and then just defer to the flow. You know, there's not really a lot of unit tests to have to write here. There's obviously testing, you know, that needs to happen at the flow level. I don't want to undermine that. I think it's really easy to do stuff in flow and then say, "Oh, it's flow. I don't need to test that. It's going to just work." You know, meanwhile, you can blow up tens of millions of records in a Salesforce org just with the power of flow. I think flow is awesome, and I think, you know, we technology folks should be using it whenever we can, and be judicious about it. I just moved from sitting mode to standing mode, so that's why I'm all wiggly right now. Okay, so that's been updated, and this has not. I'm just gonna do that. Save this new version. Don't activate it yet. We need to refresh so that we get our. Oops. So that we get our new. Oh, come on now. So we get our new properties back on our game data. Go. All right, game data dot stat. Come on now. Status equals current loop game status. Okay. And we need to modify the logic inside of the component because we're not gonna get. If I look at this, I'm gonna get pending, tie, and completed back in each case. I need to determine win and lose. So I feel like maybe what we want is this to not just return the game status, right? We want it to return something like this. So let's go here. Let's do a switch up here. Whoops, we're going to switch on game status to uppercase. Does that look right? I think so. So if it's pending, we'll return pending. If it's tie, we'll return tie. If it's completed, then we have to, I'm going to look over to my old code. If I can find it. Am I staring right at it? I feel like I am. Let's look at our old code because what we've got is here. So I want to replicate this over here somehow. So if we're completed, if this dot game, whoops, if this dot game dot current player is winner, then we're going to return, let's see, what are we looking for, win and lose? Return win. Otherwise, we're going to return lose. And I know I'm kind of breaking a few stylistic rules here with the way this code is laid out, but keep it minimal. I just realized that I put the wrong title on the on the stream. It was rock, paper, scissors night, not inefficient icon inventory night. Have to. All right, let's see how that works. Because I think that will give us, for outcome, it should give us what we need to get the outputs right. Hey, look at that. That's a tie. Ha, look at that. I think it looks good. I really like I like it. So you can get, we got again some icons out of the out of SLDS here. We got the date that the game was played. Who? Well, current user, current player. That's you. Tied the opponent. I want to be able to hover over that and do a rematch, and then rock, stalemate rock, and then I think if we, I think the rematch had some mojo to it. If you clicked it, let's see. Yeah, gave you a quick UI to do a, to play another round. This wasn't actually doing anything. I made it this far, and you could cancel out of it. But you see the silly terms, right? That's from our vocabulary of different words for the different scenarios. So, I think I like it. I think it's cool. And what I want to do is get this rematch function going, so it would generate another round. I think if you click your name, it doesn't do anything. These buttons shouldn't probably technically be buttons, but just trying to keep it consistent. And this looks decent when it starts to kind of grow. It's all this is just grid logic, or not grid layout in SLDS that drives all that. So, I think let's see if we can get, so we have to do some adjustments now, right? We got to adjust the rules of the creation of a game. Otherwise, it's not going to. I feel like I'm hunched over here. My desk is. I'm standing up very tall, and my desk is very short. So let's see what happens. Hopefully, not break anything. Hey, there we go. Hello. Put this down. That's better. I don't feel like I'm not hunched over now. All right, let's look at create game again, because we do. I'm going to step through this, and before we step through it, let's go back and take a look. We should create. It's a new RPS game. Creates the game, creates player 1, creates player 2, updates the opponent on each record, which I just realized could sound like Yoda. That could save us some. Well, we still need the player move. Yeah, we still need the player move for the current player. Shucks. Okay. Never mind. Create player 1, create player 2, create opponent, create player move. So this is the move for player 1. And that's right. We set that. Now this is create game with the intention of playing, right? What we kind of need is to be able to call create game. I don't think we're doing that yet. Let's look at our code. I don't think we have a create game. No, we do. We have create game. Because this is new RPS game. Let's look at create game. New RPS game is going to go away eventually. Create a game, create a player, create an opponent, update the player, create the player move. So this will let us pass in the first move. I think that makes sense. Then we want to make a second move, right? We need to copy this and let's create opponent move here. This creates a player move record without a move chosen for the opponent. Create the game, status pending, create our first player, which is us. Create the opponent, which is whoever we chose to. This should be. Oh, that is the opponent. Yeah, we flip-flop the opponents. That's right. Opponent user ID is part of the create game request. So we have another Apex object, or Apex enabled class that we're passing in for when we create a game. We update the player to specify the opponent. We make the player's move. We make the opponent's move that's blank. So let's save that. Activate that. So that's cool. Now, our other flow in question is, see, this is player move after created. I think we want to change this to after created or updated. And what we're processing here is, let's see, let's make some adjustments here. This is really after created. I'm going to say or updated. At least get the label right on it. Okay, record is created or updated. Done. I think we want to first check if the move is not specified, then just bail. Let's connect a few of these. Connect a few of these up a little bit. Whoa. Okay. Nope. Do not do that. Why can I not connect you the way I want to? I'll do that. Okay. First things first, if the, let's add a decision here. If, is move empty? I did an assignment again. Whoops. I do that a lot. Decision is move. Well, actually, we don't even need to do that here. Let's do that as part of the entry criteria, right? Move is null, false, right? And we probably don't, well, I don't think we're going to ever update the move again. So that should, yeah, right. The load other player performance issue. It sees me doing a query inside of a query, but we kind of have to in this case. Okay. Just refreshing what was going on here. So this, when it sees a move, it goes and looks for the other player, right? And if it sees the other, it gets the player record that's in the same game that's not our current player. And if it checks for the status of that, so did they play or not? And if the other player, this is a little confusing, if the other player didn't play yet, then we indicate that the current player did play. They've done their thing yet already. If they have already played, then we go and check their move. We do we do a little bit more work to basically figure out what the outcome of the game is, and we use the outcome. What are those called again? What did we call those? Man, I'm drawing a blank here. What did we call those? Yeah, outcomes. I don't know why I can't find those. Oh, I don't think we don't have a tab for those. We just go through the moves, right? They're related to each of the moves. Let's see. We don't have these built out. Okay, so that's good. That's probably why everything's tying and also not really working. So scissors. This is scissors beats scissors break rock, or no, scissors cut paper. So winner is scissors, loser is paper. Okay, and then the losing outcome for scissors is rock breaks scissors. So the winner is rock. Okay, now let's look at rock. How does rock lose? Paper covers rock. So the winner is paper. And then let's look at paper. Paper covers rock, scissors cut paper. Okay. I think we've got all the outcomes now. So it's important so that the outcome can be determined here. There's probably a way more efficient way to write this part, but we're checking, was it a tie? All right, set. We're in all cases we're setting the player statuses, and I think we're also setting the related. Yeah, we're setting the move. We're elevating the move onto the player when this is done, which is if we could have that be. If we didn't have to hide that from the from the end user, this would probably all be a little bit easier. But and honestly, at this point, because we're just building a custom UI in front of this, we probably could have got away with it. But I digress. All right, that should allow us to create a new game with populated for the player initiating the game can play their move right away, and then the can we do a debug on this? I don't want to run you in rollback mode. I just want to. Oh well, we can't do it here. Let's do. Here's create game is active. Don't do it in rollback mode. But we need to pass some stuff in, right? We need to pass in our create game request. All right, I'll just sling some code at this. Should we clear out our data of the existing one? No, let's leave it. Here, we'll make a quick create game example here. API.create. My ear itches. Yikes. Okay. We need a create game request. And we need what do we pass in for that? Create game request is taking a few things. Okay. So there's some future thinking here that doesn't quite exist yet, but we want to be able to pass in the user ID for the first player. So using that here, we want to pass in the opponent user ID, and we want to pass in the move that the first player is playing. So we need a little bit more logic here to round this out. I'm just going to run a couple of queries here. Select ID from user where first name equals user. Limit 1.id. And then we'll get opponent user ID. Is that what it is? Yep, opponent user ID. From user, where first name equals u2. And then we got the opponent user, and then we need cgr.move ID equals select ID from move where name equals, I'll just do rock. Okay. That should create a new game between two players, and the first player played rock. Well, let's see what happens. Whoop. List has no row for assignment. What? Oh, wait, is it U2? Is that the name of the... Is that the name of the user? I should check that, I guess. Thought it was. Let's see, maybe it's just last name. U2. Yep. That would do it. Okay. Okay, that looks a little better. And what was the result? Gotta get back. Got so many tabs. Okay, we got a game. It's pending. It's got 2 players. First player played. We don't expose the move yet. We have a player move record. The play was wrong. We didn't set the game. Shoot. We have to update that in the create game function. When we create player moves, we have to specify the game. So I think I'm just going to get rid of, let's just get rid of all of this, the new game we just created, so it doesn't get confused. Now, do we end up with orphan records? I think we might end up with orphan player moves when that happens. So we might need to delete player moves where game is, or perhaps even before delete on the game, get rid of the player moves that are associated with it. I'm going to delete this. Do we have, I suppose we should, oh man, my ear, what is going on? Yeah, let's delete player move. Okay, we should be cleaned up now. Let's rerun our call here. And how do we do? We got a new game. Pending status. Player 1 played. Move is not exposed. Player move has the game. Player 2 is pending. Move is not exposed. Has a player move record. Is just waiting to have the move. So now we should be able to go back to the arena and see our second game and whatever status it's got going on. And we do, but we don't see the other one. Okay, things that are kind of working right now. Oh, you know why? I just deleted all the player move records in the system when I made that other call. So, oops. Anyway, this should also be a question mark. So that's one thing that we'll have to fix here. But in progress, 3 dots, the date, that's right, that's me. The user, we should not be able to do a rematch on a pending game. I think there's also some logic we're missing there. I can see the moves that that I made. I should have a question mark here because I don't know what that move is from my opponent yet. So we're super close. Let's see what that... Right. So I don't think player move here is not undefined. I think it's an empty string. That might be it. That might be all we need to do. There we go. User battles U2 dot confronts question mark. I need more thesaurus words, so maybe next week on chat we can get some more words going. Okay, cool. Look at that. Now we can let's fake this for our other player. Let's have them lose. So we'll have you two play a move, scissors. Make sure that whole situation still works as expected. The game is complete. This did not update. So the status, or did it? And I just didn't see it happen. Nope, it did. Okay, it just cached. So now if we go back over here and refresh this, I should be the winner. This should be green. Should have a check mark. Yes, look at that. User bests U2 and rock vanquishes. I love that word. Vanquishes scissors. Very cool. Feel like I should throw a couple more games in here that we'll play. Let's play a few more so we get a nice collection of stuff here. Where is here, right? So I'm gonna play scissors. We'll play a game with scissors. I'll play a game with paper. Okay, so now we should have 2 more pending games. We should, but we don't. What just happened? That's interesting. That is very interesting. Okay. Something's wrong. It doesn't look like... Well, let's look at what the data came back as. Let's start there. Because if our data is wrong, then we know it's in our flow. Let me, I'm just going to grab this and prettify it. Oh, there you are. Okay. So let's see. Here's a game. Paper. Status is pending. Status is pending. Status is this is wrong. Status is pending. Status is pending. That's interesting. I think we have something wrong in our I think we have something wrong in our player move here. I think we are not looking at the right filter somewhere, and that is causing a very greedy action to occur. That's my theory. So let's take a look here. We've got a couple of minutes left. Let's see if we can get this right. I think it's probably right here. Nope, get other player, record equals game. I thought we were going to filter down to not having the opponent from the game. Let's see, load other player move. Could that be it? I don't think that's it. I was wondering if maybe our could our game data be yeah, but why would we end up with 5 of these? I don't think we even have 5. Well, no, I did create however many games. So let's see how many we have. There are 4 games. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. So I think we have an issue in our loop inside of our flow. And because we shouldn't even have 4, we shouldn't have 5 games. We should have 4 games. Refresh. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Today is today's close enough to the 13th. So these were 1, 2, 3, 4. These were all created today. But how did we end up with 5 in our record set when we've only got 4 in the system? Unless maybe it's returning a deleted one? That would be kind of weird. Were these all created at the same time? Yeah, see, the timestamps are all the same. So something is fishy. I'm gonna clear all the data out. And let's see if we can. So we'll start fresh. We'll get rid of all the games and we'll get rid of all the player moves. Okay. So now we should have nothing here. Okay, no records. Now let's create a sample. So this is user, and then I'm going to play paper. Okay, so refresh our games list. We have 1. Refresh the arena. We have 1 pending game. That looks right. I'm going to create a second pending game that's exactly the same. Okay. And now let's see if we have another game. We've got 2. Let's look in the arena. We've got 3. This is definitely something with our flow, which is generating the data for us. It's also weird. This one makes no sense. This one here in the middle. It's almost, this one looks like these, the first one and the last one seem legit. And the middle one seems not so legit. So I'm going to have to investigate the one in the middle because I think this has got to be a function of the data loop that we run through to get all this stuff pulled together. But for now, oh hey, hey you, hello, my name is me. Just in time to wrap up here. So we got some UI going on rock, paper, scissors, different colors for different statuses. Everything looked good until I added a second game, which seems to turn it into a third game, which I'm pretty sure is just some function of your Twitter link says YCDTOSF. Oh, where'd you find that? I must, on Twitch. Oh, really? YCDTOSF. Oh, in the About section. Oh, okay. Hey, thanks for that. I guess I should fix that. Oh, yeah, look at that. The Twitter link is wrong. If I can remember how to actually edit that. No one's played a match yet. No, unfortunately. We just got this kind of up and running. And I thought we were good. But now we are facing this little bit of a bug here. So, but we'll get it figured out. And then I'm pretty sure come next week, we're going to have a little bit more. We're going to be in pretty good shape. I spent some time in between shows getting this going. I know I would like to have other people playing. Believe me, it just doesn't quite work yet. I've got everything turned on except the ability to play the other side, right? So like this first user versus this second user, there's nothing, you can't do anything here right now. but we'll get there. But I do have to sign off for the night tonight, and sorry you came in late and only caught the tail end of this, but we'll be back next week with more rock paper scissors, and I will fix this bug, and we will be